You are Locked On Bulls Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Chicago on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome in to the Locked On Bulls Postcast here on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. My name's Joe George. You find me on Twitter at Joe George Radio. Same with Instagram and TikTok as well. The Bulls lose another game. They lose 112-91 to the Milwaukee Bucks. They move to 13-17 on the season, a night in which Giannis Antetokounmpo and Damian Lillard do not play. The Bulls have no shot versus the Milwaukee Bucks, one of the best teams in the NBA after their terrible stretch. Of course, the NBA Cup champions. And the Bulls, we're just kind of waiting for the trade deadline to get here at this point. So we'll talk about the game tonight, Brick City, all over the place. I was even checking, I was on record watch in this game for how many threes the Bulls were missing. Kind of tired of it just being this bad. It was fun early in the season when games were more competitive, but if it's going to be this bad, I'm ready for the young players just to take over. Specifically saw in some moments tonight where the young core is fun. We'll talk about that. And then kind of question, like a big picture question, watching the young guys play. And potentially, what this team looks like after the trade deadline. If maybe we'll see, a stylistic change of what the Bulls are going to be in the long run this season. But my gosh, they were terrible tonight from the three-point line. They, as Zach says right away, the Bulls just built another house. Look, I think this was in the second quarter of the game. Went to the old Google machine, and I was like, how many threes is the record for most threes in a game? Because I thought the Bulls were going to have a chance at it tonight. And honestly, they kind of did. The record is 47. The Houston Rockets did that in 2019. I remember that game very fondly. I was covering that game, or at least watching it and talking about the next day on my radio show in Houston. That was 47 missed threes is the record. The Bulls only missed 38 tonight. So congratulations to the Bulls for not having the all-time single game record for most missed threes. They shot, what did it end up being? 20.8% from the three-point line. They were terrible in this game. And look, this has been a really bad stretch for the Bulls. The last couple games, even the game against Boston that they won, they're not shooting the ball well. This style of basketball that Billy Donovan and this coaching staff and this front office have decided to implement does not work with this roster. They are not good enough shooters. When Zach LaVine doesn't get his first bucket until I think there was 30 seconds left, right around there in the second quarter, he gets his first bucket on the court. Late in the second quarter is crazy. If your best player in this kind of a game not even score until that moment, you know it's going to be a bad night. But the Bulls come out in this game. Vooch is going early. He gets 6 of the first 8 points. Kobe White kind of right on cue, the very first bucket of the game, as Stacey King is talking about what I've been discussing on the show, where he's just, Kobe White's taking these transition threes that are terrible, and they're not going in. He immediately, for the first bucket of the game, he attacks the rim. That was nice to see. And then Vooch, like I said, gets 6 of the first 8, but then blink of an eye, the Bulls are down 22-11. They scored the first 5 points of this game. They then only scored 12 more points the entire first quarter. 33-17 after one. 3 of 15 from the three-point line. 6 of 22 overall. It's crazy how bad it was to start this game. And you would think, because we've watched plenty of Bulls games at this point this season, obviously. We've watched the good, the bad, the ugly through this team. Most of the time, these guys kind of come around a little bit in the second, third, and fourth quarter and make a game of it. And they got a couple small stretches in here where at one point in the third, they were down by 23. They go on a 10-0 run. They were down 18 at one point, actually. They go on a 10-0 run. They get it back down to 8. So, they went on these little runs, but as soon as they went on an 8-0 run, Milwaukee followed that up immediately with a 13-2 run of themselves, and the Bulls just had no shot. And this is the reality of who they are. It's super frustrating to watch. This is what people have a beef with the NBA. Stylistically, these teams trying to just jack up threes and have no shot of making them consistently. I really don't know why, honestly, we kind of saw the pivot tonight a little bit. Actually, for the first time, we watched the Bulls shoot terribly. Maybe it's because they just shot so poorly in this game, but they actually outscored the Milwaukee Bucks in the paint. Kind of been the consistent message of this season is that when they haven't been shooting well, they don't go in the paint. We saw a little bit more of that tonight, but it just wasn't enough because Milwaukee just ran away with it. They were clearly the better team tonight. The Bulls were doing everything, they were okay in a lot of areas. They had more steals than the Bucks in this game. They were only out-rebounded by 3 rebounds in this game. The turnover margin wasn't that crazy. Like, they weren't giving up a ton of points off turnovers. They just couldn't shoot the basketball. And it really is, like that first comment we read, it's laying a brick foundation for what it is. And it's honestly, like, we'll talk a little bit more about it in the next segment, where I'm kind of confused about what the return is for Zach LaVine, like what the strategy of AK in this front office is, because a guy that can't close with the Denver Nuggets and Michael Porter Jr. is supposed to be the key piece in a Zach LaVine trade. Don't really get it. The offense isn't much better. I don't know. Zach also asked here on the chat, why does Billy refuse to change the game plan when it's clear the team can't shoot? I don't know. I don't know why they are so adamant about sticking with this style of basketball when it's just not working. And I don't think it's going to get better at the trade deadline when you move away from Vooch and you move away from LaVine and these guys can't shoot, because Kobe White's been terrible. He knows that. He admitted it. No excuses. He said himself no excuses. And he's pretty dinged up. Like, he does have a lot of injuries that he's been dealing with throughout the year, nagging stuff that's really just been kind of a problem for him. But even, like, don't have Lonzo, who's been not shooting the ball very well, but he's out with an illness in this game. But they just have no shot against Milwaukee when they have no Giannis, they have no Dame, and they are at their weakest. I mean, we're literally listening to this game, and we're starting to get fantasy football takes and who's going to be the next head coach of the Bears takes from the broadcast. Like, that's where we're at with the Bulls right now. They're talking about fantasy football, and, well, because Keenan Allen was in the house. Stacey King benched him. Stacey made the right call to bench Keenan Allen, okay? No one saw a 100-yard game coming from Keenan. But, like, they're literally, like, having discussions about the Bears playing the Seahawks on Thursday Night Football this week. Like, that's where we're at in this game tonight, where they just can't hit a shot to save their life. It's not to be surprising with the style of basketball that they're so adamant about playing that they're not going to pivot away from it. There are going to be a lot of nights like this, and when you play a team like Milwaukee without even 2 of their best players, like, they're just a overall better basketball team for you. I mean, they shot 41.9%. They shot 18 of 43. You were 10 from 48 from the three-point line. I mean, the fact that the Bulls even shot 40% from the field after starting the game, 6 for 22, kind of feels like a miracle, because it really was just, it wasn't even the 3-ball. They just couldn't hit anything at the start of this game. So the Bulls build a house of bricks against the Milwaukee Bucks. They go to 13-17 on the season. Feels like the trades are right around the corner. We just now wait for official news to come down about what the Bulls are going to do, what kind of return they are going to get. But it feels like, honestly, this might be one of the last times we do a postcast show with Zach LaVine as a member of the Chicago Bulls. We will not have a show when they play their next game. I think it's Thursday night. We'll be doing a Bears postcast because they're terrible. We got to talk about them too. Because reminder, we do Bears, Bulls, Cubs, and Notre Dame games. So at least we got a Notre Dame game to root for coming up here. So hit that subscribe button. Things will get better in Chicago. I am convinced of that, honestly. Things will get better eventually. But right now, the Bulls are among the teams that are struggling mightily in Chicago. So let's talk about something I just want to see. I'm ready for it. We'll kind of expand on this trade deadline stuff. We saw some glimpses of a fun, young lineup tonight. That won't be your starting lineup when all the trades are said and done. But honestly, I'm just kind of ready for it. Because if you're going to be this bad, at least be young and bad. And at least have growth and development that we can try to see in front of our eyes. I saw one of the comments on one of the Locked On Bulls YouTube channel on their latest episode talking about the Zach LaVine stuff is the Bulls need to stop just being in the middle. You either need to be good or bad. Like, being in the middle is the absolute worst. And then we're going to talk about that next, because that's how I really feel after tonight's game. It's just, please get out of the middle. Be good or be bad. And frankly, they're not going to be good. So we'll talk about that next here on the Locked On Bulls postcast here on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. Missing someone this holiday season and want them to be part of your festivities from afar? Do your loved ones live far away but wish they could live close to you? We've got the perfect gift for you. Skylight Frame is the touchscreen digital photo frame your whole family will love. You can upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. It's super easy to use. Setup takes in less than 60 seconds. Seamless sharing, inviting friends and family to easily share their photos via the free Skylight mobile app or email. No account or subscription required. That's a really cool feature to have as well. The touchscreen is a total game changer. You can swipe through photos, tap to see new photos sent, tap the heart button to say thank you to the sender. All of that. A great gift for this time of the year. And now is a special limited time offer for our listeners. Get $20 off your first purchase of a Skylight Frame when you go to skylightframe.com/NBA. That's skylighthtframe.com/NBA. Get $20 off your purchase now at skylightframe.com/NBA. So we saw a couple times in this game where the Bulls are going on these little mini runs, and Billy Donovan makes the decision to put in this young, energized group of players. So it's Kobe White, it's Ayo Dosunmu, it's Jalen Smith, it's Modest Buzelis, and it's Dalen Terry. So we see them come in really in two different stretches where it's very clear they're just trying to change the pace, the style of this game against the Milwaukee Bucks. So when you're shooting so terribly, at least those guys are full of effort, full of energy. None of them you're going to be questioning their defensive or offensive effort. They're definitely worse basketball players than some of your starters, but you don't question what they're bringing. Honestly, just watching this game tonight, I think tonight was my breaking point of watching these Bulls games all season long, where it was a fun time at the beginning, these 20-point comebacks, being 500 basketball team, some tough competitive play in the NBA Cup. I think I'm just ready. I'm ready for the trade deadline, for the trades to be here. I'm ready to see that young group just kind of take over as the main core group of the Chicago Bulls. And we don't know, exactly what's coming in. The Michael Porter Jr. stuff has been heavily reported. But it's another player that's kind of stopping the Denver Nuggets from acquiring Zach LaVine right now. I don't really get the fit of Michael Porter Jr., honestly, with this team. I don't really get the point of taking on an asset like that. Honestly, I'd rather just keep Zach LaVine, just to be frank, if that's the move you're going to make. But obviously, I don't run a front office in the NBA. I don't really love the Bulls front office at the moment either. But that's at least the reported move that feels the most likely to happen. But I just think if you're going to be this bad, at least be young. At least be young and dumb and developing. I would much rather see a starting lineup of Kobe White and Ayo and Modest Buzelis and Patrick Williams and Jalen Smith be your starting five, and then having Dalen Terry and Julian Phillips come off the bench instead of guys of what they're doing now. If you're going to be this poor of a shooting team, if you're going to not be able to get over the hump and really show in the last two games, specifically I think against the Boston the second game and then against Milwaukee tonight, where you're just so far behind the eight ball in terms of skill and overall talent, I'm just kind of ready for this next era of Chicago Bulls basketball to take shape. And if Michael Porter Jr., he would be in the starting lineup, that takes Modest out of it. But I would hope that Modest, who's kind of fallen back in the rotation, I think that's pretty clear. I don't think he checked in today until the second quarter. So, he's not been playing great basketball himself. But I really would rather watch these young guys struggle than watch the starters, this current version of the Bulls, struggle. And Kobe White, he's in both pictures of this. But, what does him and Ayo and Modest playing more minutes together, what does that look like? When Patrick Williams was coming back from his injury, it was a little weird because, Patrick Williams comes off the bench the first game, and I think one of the injuries happened the next game. But Billy Donovan said in one of his press conferences that there was a chance that Patrick Williams would be coming off the bench to play minutes with Modest. And, I like the idea of that. Just what does it look like? What is this team? And if you notice, there's another name I didn't mention, and he's not out for the season. I didn't mention Josh Giddey. They're not going to trade Josh Giddey. I know they're not going to. And he'll be part of that starting lineup. But I just kind of am ready for, he does play hard. He can't shoot the ball very well. But Josh Giddey does a lot of creative things. What does a lineup of, Kobe White, Ayo, Josh Giddey, Patrick Williams, and Jalen Smith look like? Well, frankly, it looks like just a much worse version of what you're putting out there right now. So that's why it's almost it's not a step far enough for me. Like, I'm just very willing, to see like what this young core can look like if they're gonna keep. Like, I'll keep saying it. Like, if they're gonna keep losing games like this, if they're going to be, a team that's going to really fall apart, because I kind of feel like that's what we're seeing in front of our eyes a little bit, is a team that kind of the magical moments of this season have worn off. Or even when Zach LaVine is out there and he's having a great night and Vooch is getting double doubles, got another one in this game tonight. Like, I think I'm just kind of, ready just at this point for just what's next. Specifically with Modest Buzelis, but Dalen Terry is really another one that, like, I'm really fascinated with what his role could be on the Bulls going forward. Like, what kind of, he's just so limited in the minutes that he's playing right now. He's another one. Like, what is he talking? Even like, they're talking about these guys who are kind of, balling pretty well in the G League a little bit, and these guys who are stuck at the end of the bench who are shooting a little bit more. And not that I need to see more of, guys like Carter and, even like THT, who, like, it's still fun watching him, being a Chicago kid, like being from Simeon, like watching him go out there and play for the Bulls is fun, but it's not someone I need to see all the time. We'll see. Like, I really think there's a chance that because, like, we're not going to have a show on Thursday night because of the Bears game, and we'll be doing a postcast for that. Like, the way these Nuggets rumors are heating up, I think there's a real chance that this is the last, postcast show we could do with Zach LaVine as a member of the Chicago Bulls. The Vooch trade stuff feels like it's much farther away. That definitely feels more what happens at the deadline if they're actually able to pull that one off. But it really just feels like we are on the kind of the cusp of what is most likely a rebuild. And I guess I'll say it again, too. I don't love that Michael Porter Jr. is the player that's being reportedly coming back. I would much rather just be trying to get as much draft compensation to use for other players to trade up for our draft down the road. But again, it's not our decision. We'll see how it works out. Michael Porter Jr. can do some things offensively. The back injuries are not a concern really anymore for him, and he could fit well with this group. Like, you think about the position that he plays and kind of, being that small forward guy on this roster, of putting him out there with Giddey and Kobe White and him and Patrick Williams and maybe temporarily Vucevic before it's just Jalen Smith is your starting center, unless a center is coming in return for Vooch down the road. There is, like, some attraction to that the rest of the season, but I'm just kind of ready for it. I don't know, what's next for, like, how quickly this all really goes down. I could obviously be very wrong that, we might do a couple more of these with Zach LaVine as a member of the Bulls. But it's definitely knocking. It's knocking on the door of the end of the Zach LaVine era. And I'm just, as it says here in the chat, like, at least the young guys play hard. And they do. They play tough. They play hard. And really specifically more with Modest Buzelis is when these trades happen, I hope the big fallout for it is when we're watching these games and we're talking about these games during these postcast shows, is we're really just having bigger conversations and bigger sample sizes of what Modest is doing from, game 1 to game 82, and just how much of a different player he looks like throughout this entire process. So I'm ready now. I'm ready for it now. And I think the other question I have with tonight's game that we've already hit on a little bit with just how terrible they were, that, if you missed the stat earlier, the NBA record for missed threes in a game is 47 by the Rockets. In 2019, I Googled it in like the second quarter to see what the Bulls needed to get to. They only ended up with 38 missed threes, according to the ESPN box score. So they didn't break the record, but they were on pace for quite a while of what it could have been. So maybe a play style change is in play for the Bulls with these moves that are coming. We haven't seen Billy Donovan make the pivot yet, but maybe when all of these things actually start to transpire, maybe we actually will, try to see something a little bit different from the Chicago Bulls. We'll get into that next year on the Locked On Bulls postcast here on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. Today's episode is sponsored by BILT Rewards. If you're a renter, listen up. This is a total game changer. Thanks to BILT, you can now earn points on rent payments just like you do with groceries or travel. Paying rent now comes with serious perks, and it's completely free to join. Earn valuable BILT points on your rent everyday spending at no extra cost. Redeem points towards flights, hotel stays, and even future rent payments. With over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels in their program, the possibilities are endless. Access unique experiences that are exclusive to BILT members. I love using points for travel, whether I'm flying back to Chicago and seeing friends or whatever. Like, using points is always something that I want to be able to use. So being able to use BILT and use them for traveling points is an awesome perk to have. You can start earning points on rent you're already paying by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. That's joinbuilt, BILT.com/lockedonnba. Make sure you use our link so they know we sent you. Don't wait to start earning rewards today.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I've been telling you guys for a while that this is a leg up that FanDuel is giving you that a lot of other betting sites do not, or sports books do not give you, to be able to have everything at your fingertips, to make an informed bet on the same page where you place your bets. It just streamlines the whole entire process for you. So just visit FanDuel.com today to join. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's $150 that FanDuel is giving you for just placing and winning your first $5 bet. So make a smart bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
All right, so a couple other notes from tonight's game. Forgot about this one, saw it in the comments. Speaking of Modest Buzelis, he's trying to catch bodies every single night, going after Brook Lopez in this game. I love the cojones on this kid. He is wanting to put someone on a poster in every single game. It's been a while since we got one. We got him early. They came hot and heavy with Modest Buzelis. These posters he was put on me. He tried his hardest to put Brook Lopez on a poster tonight. And then also, another thing we've seen a handful of times. And look, this one's a little bit different because it's only 7 games played by Chris Middleton. But we just went through this and just mentioned this in the last game versus the Boston Celtics. It feels like every single night the Bulls play, someone they're playing has a season high point total. And that happened in tonight's game. Like I said, only 7 games, but Chris Middleton gets a season high 21 points in this game. The Bulls continue to be the ultimate get-right team for a team that's struggling, a player that's struggling, a statistic a team is not good at. They come in, they play the Bulls, they shoot the lights out, and it's not even like the Bulls are playing terrible defense all the time. It just feels like they are the ultimate get-right team, where if you're struggling, you're hoping to see Chicago on your schedule. But we were talking about this earlier. The three-point shooting, the disaster that tonight was, how terrible the Bulls were from beyond the arc. And we kind of talked through just briefly about if there'll be a play style change or why there's not a play style change. Really, right now, the Bulls seem strictly adamant that they are going to stick with this, the good, the bad, the ugly. But my question, and just watching tonight's game, watching these young groups come in, the one with Kobe White and Ayo and Modest and Dalen Terry and Jalen Smith, watching those guys come in does feel like they're playing a little bit different style of basketball than when they're on the court with the other guys, where they're not just ripping threes, except for really Kobe White. But Ayo, you can kind of tell he knows what his shot is this season, and it's not improving. We did see Kobe attack the basket a couple more times. I actually think it would make sense for Billy Donovan to not try to implement a total stylistic change. And we know what threes are and how important they are in the NBA today. But just the reality of it is you're not the Boston Celtics. You're not going to take 51 threes a game and be the best team in the Eastern Conference. You're going to take 48 threes and shoot 20% and make 10 of them. That's who the Bulls are. So I think that if there's going to be a style of play change, just watching this game versus the Bucks unfold, it kind of got me thinking maybe the trade deadline and the post All-Star break, maybe we'll see a little bit different look for the Chicago Bulls. Because, Jalen Smith, when they're making a run there at the start of the second quarter to try to get back in this game, I looked up and all of a sudden he had 10 points. And it was very quickly, almost all of it came in the second quarter, where he was really attacking the paint. He was going after, the Bucks without Brook Lopez out there. And he's really been a diverse player for the Bulls this year. He's not great interior. He's not great on the outside. He's just like a good basketball player. So with him, Dalen Terry, who can shoot and drive, Modest, who's kind of can shoot and drive as well. Like, obviously he can drive. He's trying to dunk on everybody. We've seen the shot look pretty good, pretty consistent at times, and pretty poor at times. But, like, I'd rather Modest be out there taking threes and trying to do this. But, like, so that's why I wonder, like, if there's going to be a style play change, I think it happens after Zach LaVine and Vooch are no longer on the roster. Because if they're on the roster, like, it's kind of like, what's the point? That's how I feel watching this game. Is they're going to take a lot of bad threes. They're going to miss a lot of threes. I get excited when the young players come on the court, and there's really no, like, anger towards the style of play. It's just what the Bulls decided they were going to be. And I guess at this point, it's just a hope that when Vooch and LaVine are no longer on the Bulls, that maybe they will, just rein it in just a little bit. Still take your threes when they're open. Just try to be a little different than what you're doing right now. I'd love to see Modest Buzelis. I don't know if he's taken a single shot in the paint this year, or in the interior inside the 3-point line that's not actually directly in the paint. Like, has he taken a mid-range jump shot this season? I'd be fascinated to look at his shot chart this season. I'm gonna guess if he has, the number is under 5 for this season, and if they are, they're probably running floaters for the most part. So that will do it for this episode of the Locked On Bulls postcast here on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. If you're listening on the audio and the Locked On Bulls audio feed, thank you for checking us out. As always, reminder, we go live after every single, or as many Bulls games as we can, because there are a lot of conflicts, but almost every single Bulls game, Bears game, Notre Dame football game, and of course every single Cubs game, which hopefully Kyle Tucker will lead the Cubs to a winning season. We'll do a lot more of these winning postcast shows at some point this season. So that will do it for this episode. Thank you for checking us out. As always, appreciate you. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet for all of our postcast shows here on the Locked On Sports Chicago YouTube channel. So that will do it for us. We will talk to you next for our next postcast show on Thursday night after Caleb Williams and the Bears take on the Seattle Seahawks. So for now, we will have a Merry Christmas. Forgot that tomorrow's Christmas Eve. So Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Thank you for everyone listening, watching, that checked us out so far this year, especially everyone that checked out the Notre Dame squad show that we did after they played Indiana. That was a ton of fun. So appreciate all of you, and we'll talk to you soon.